2 new maps, 4 vehicles, new trailers and add-ons. All of them in the season 14 of SnowRunner. So in this video we're going to review every single thing that was released in this season. The region, the vehicles, the trailers and more. Let's start with the maps and the missions in Austria. Something that I really liked, I pretty much loved this idea. One of the first contracts that you complete, probably the first one, is the taking stock of the damage contract. And this contract is such a great way to start a new map. So this contract basically takes you on a tour around most of the map. So you get to see the map, you get familiar with different areas and roads in that map, and it rewards you with a vehicle at the end of it. What's better than that? I really like this contract, so that's why I mentioned it in the video. Now, once you scout the whole map, there are 2 things that you're not going to miss. First, how beautiful and unique this region is. And second, in both maps, we have so many roads, and that's great. I don't think we have any map in a SnowRunner that has this amount of roads that just connect to each other and give you the options to take so many different roads, and all of them are useful. Not only all of these roads are useful, all of them are like around important areas, like warehouses or farms or things like that. So when you want to get to a location, you have so many options to choose. And the roads that you choose depends on where you are on the map right now and what truck you're using. So in so many maps you always stick with one road and use it most of the times. You're not going to do that in Austria. And that's so great. I love that about this region. Now, something else that I want to say that might sound a bit weird is I felt like this region is just way more real compared to other regions, and it's way more detailed. In so many regions, the towns or some of the buildings or things like that are, I don't know how to say it, but they look a bit fake. Or it's like a pretend. But in this region, everything felt so real, and both of the maps were like very detailed. The towns, the buildings, the farming fields, the port, the warehouses, or like these tourist camps or tourist areas or the castles. Everything was just well put together. I think Austria probably has the best maps in the whole game. I absolutely loved it. And in this region, you kinda travel a lot between the first and the second map, but it doesn't bother you at all. These 2 maps are connected in a very, very good way. So it doesn't even feel like there are 2 maps. It's like you're driving in one big map. And you have 3 gateways between the 2 maps. One of them is the port, which is like a mix of a ferry and a gateway, which you have to unlock. And the other 2 are like the normal gateway that we always had. And this region has so many unique things. It's like it has its own identity, so you're not going to forget about this region. And overall, this map is not extremely difficult. There are some roads that are a bit dangerous, especially if you're not using a capable vehicle, but mostly it's not that hard. Now, 2 things that was kinda new. First of all, we had some horses in the second map. That was cool. And these like barriers or like signs that we have near a part of the road that is destroyed. Usually you can destroy them with your horn, but not anymore. In this map, these things are indestructible. You can push them, but you can't destroy them with your horn. And they have these lights that blink, which is cool. Now, one thing that I didn't like about this map, this rock right here was like the pain of my existence. Like 9 out of 10 trucks struggled a lot in this area because of this one rock. Please just remove it. Now let's just quickly talk about farming a bit. I'm going to make a video about farming in a SnowRunner and I'm gonna talk about farming a lot more in that video, so I'm not going to talk about farming a lot right now. But you have some farming to do in Austria. The farming wasn't as bad as Glades. You didn't need to do the 3 steps of farming. Sometimes you only needed to cultivate the field, or sometimes you needed to cultivate and plant seed, and that was it. I think only one time you needed to do the whole thing, like cultivate, plant seed, and harvest. And for potatoes, farming works in a way that you unlock potatoes. You don't need to farm to get more potatoes. Once you do the farming only one time, and you have access to unlimited potatoes. But farming has some problems, and some of those problems got even worse, so I'm gonna talk about that in my next video. Now, even though the maps were great, the missions were not the best. Now, for some of the missions, you needed to deliver tons of cargo. Like a lot of cargo. Mostly it wasn't that bad. Like it wasn't something that could bother you a lot. It wasn't like very bad. But like one contract in particular was this contract called Fahrenheit 572. And this thing wasn't a contract. It was a whole operation. It was Operation 572. You needed to deliver 10 logs, and that was a lot. Like I never had those many logs unpacked on my Aramatsu. Like I couldn't put any more logs on that thing. And I can't believe someone doing that contract in a normal way. Like at best you have to go up and down that same road like 5 times. I think 10 logs was a lot. I did like one thing about this contract, and it was the fact that because it was kind of a big contract, I had to make a strategy on how to make this easier for myself. So I used like ASA 5319 and Aramatsu in a way to make things easier for me. That was good, but 10 logs was a lot. Now, about the contracts, I think there was so many missed opportunities, especially about the castles. The castles were such a unique and cool thing. I loved them, but I think we got like one cutscene for a castle, and like the contracts about the castles were not that good. Maybe we could like carry and deliver cannons to some of the castles. That would have been cool. Maybe one castle didn't have a stone bridge, so we needed to build that bridge. Or maybe a wall for the castle, things like that. I think there could have been more contracts, better contracts about the castles in this region. Now for the vehicles. We got no trucks in this season. We got 2 tractors and 2 scouts. Let's start with the scouts first. The Earthroamer SX and the Earthroamer LTI are the 2 big scouts that we got in this season. They are very similar, but they have some differences. The Earthroamer SX has diff-lock always on, and it has 50 more repair parts in the service kit. And it's a bit bigger than the LTI. Other than these differences, they are pretty much the same truck. Now, the most unique thing about these vehicles is the radar add-on that they have. It's similar to the Exploration unit trailer, but has one difference. With that trailer, when you scan an area, you're going to discover the whole area that you scanned. With the radar add-on, half of the area is going to be discovered, and half of it is going to be gray, so you can see the roads, but if there is an upgrade over there or there is a task, you're not going to see it. Now, having this add-on for a scout is amazing. I actually in one of my older videos suggested that bigger scouts like Ford F750 and these smaller off-road trucks like Step Crocodile should have the radar add-on to make them unique and have something to stand out. And it's great to have these add-ons for these scouts. It makes them so much useful. And these 2 vehicles have access to so much repair parts, spare wheels, and extra fuel. And not only that, these 2 vehicles are very fuel efficient and have a very big fuel tank. So they are like the ultimate scout vehicle. And something else that I really like about these vehicles is the winch points that you have at the top of the vehicle. They could be very handy sometimes. Now for the tires. I've tested these tires in different situations, and I have come to this conclusion that the Earth Roamer tires are better in shallow mud and the UOD2 tires are better in deep mud. I could be wrong and this is maybe not 100% accurate, but right now I have the Earth Roamer tires and I am going 0.3 kilometers. Now I change it to UOD2 tires and now I'm going 0.5 kilometers. Now back to the Earth Roamer tires again and again back to going 0.3 kilometers. I feel like the UOD2 tires are better in deep mud. But both tires, the UOD tires and the Earth Roamer tires, are really good. Doesn't matter what tire you're using for these vehicles, they are going to perform good. Overall, I think the Earth Roamer Scouts are really good, probably the best Scouts that we have in the game, especially because of that radar add-on and that huge big fuel tank. But the only thing that I don't like is the fact that they are very similar to each other. I wish one of them was a bit different. Now let's talk about the tractors. First, the Ancatra 1160. To be fair, it's not a tractor that I like or I recommend anyone using because of a couple of reasons. First, this tractor has a very small fuel tank and it's not a fuel efficient tractor either. So there is a high chance that you run out of fuel. And the second thing is you pretty much have two options. You can either use this thing for farming or you can use it for logging. And for both activities, it's not that good. For logging, the log crane that you have is very short and weak and it's just not a good option to use this thing for logging. And for farming, we have just better options. You know, tractors are not that useful in this game, but this one, in my opinion, is pretty much a useless vehicle that we have. I don't really like it. And at least for me, driving this thing wasn't enjoyable at all. Like, I didn't enjoy driving this tractor. Sometimes this weird thing happened that the back of the tractor jumps in the air and it's like a horse trying to kick you in the face. So I don't really like this thing. Alright, now the Futom 7290 Raw. This tractor is probably the best tractor to use right now. It's a capable tractor, it has a big fuel tank, big tires, and the log crane that this tractor has is actually very good. This log crane is maybe the best log crane that we have. It's actually a very good log crane. But overall, I don't recommend using this thing for logging because with a normal truck, you can have 2 packs of log if you attach a trailer to it, but with this thing, you can only carry 1 pack of log. Now, for farming, Futom is a very good choice. The turning radius is very good, especially if you're comparing this tractor to the older tractors like Krovet's K7M and K700. And there is a very cool thing about this tractor that the rear axle, the rear wheels are actually steerable too. They steer a bit. It's not that much, but you can notice it. So overall, the turning radius of this thing is very good. The only time this tractor doesn't perform that good is when you're driving on rocks and bumpy ground. It's not that bad, but it's not the best either. One thing that I want to mention is to never use that front counterweight, because if you have that thing on your tractor, that front counterweight is going to hit the ground and rocks and things like that all the time. And it's very frustrating. So don't use that thing. Now, one last thing that I want to mention about the tractors. The 2 new tractors doesn't have diff lock always on. They have switchable diff lock. But the old tractors got nerfed too, and now those 2 have switchable diff lock too. The Krovet's K7M and Krovet's K700 used to have diff lock always on, but now they have switchable diff lock. I'm not sure if this nerf was necessary, but I'm going to talk about it in my next video. Now, the last things that was added to the game are the 2 log trailers. We have a trailer for carrying medium logs and a trailer for carrying short logs, which is really good because if you wanted to carry short logs, you didn't have any option then using a truck. You couldn't use a trailer for it. But having a trailer for short logs is actually very good. Now, what do I think about this season overall? I think the maps, the region, the Austria region was really good. I think the design of this map was extraordinary, like the amount of roads that you have and the buildings and unique areas in this region was fantastic. Genuinely one of the best maps in a SnowRunner in my opinion. Now, the contracts and tasks were okay, but I feel like they could have been better. And the vehicles that we got were good, to be honest. I didn't like the Ancatra, but the rest of them were good and they were like an improvement compared to the older vehicles, especially the two Scouts. But at the end of the day, it's a trucking game and getting a new truck every season is just feels good. So maybe one Scout, one tractor, and one truck could have been the better option. And that's it for today's video. I see you in the next one.